viewers, and welcome to another edition of our literary program. Yes, it is said that the only constant in our evolving society is social change. Change is the only constant. But having said so, well, I also believe that the youth of our country is an active, dominating force. There are a sizable number that exist in our country which actually is below the age of 40 years. And this group of youth that we have in our country are a powerhouse and they are the driving force of our country, in fact. The youth is filled with vibrancy, with different thinking of mindsets and with many other things that they wish to achieve in their life. As I said, they're bubbling with energy, with new thoughts, with new ideas. And when we are talking about, and when I'm trying to connect social change and the youth, why am I talking about that? Because the youth today think differently, they do things differently, and they want to become different individuals by their own right. And therefore, we thought that we will bring before you three bubbling youth once again with all of their skills. Besides academics, there are other skills also to showcase before you their other talents. They are into creativity, they are into writing and etc. So right now, I'm in the midst of three youth and they are all from St. Edmund's College. They will be talking about their creative zeal, about their writing skill, about their other excellence that they have and they want to pursue and take it up higher in their life after they finish their college life. So here I go then to bring them before you. Right to my extreme left is Charne Jerlin Bepe. She is the 5th semester student from English Literature of the college. We are also being joined by Nehal Gurung. Nehal Gurung is awaiting his 6th semester result. He's almost through, but he is not from the literature background, but he's from the electronics background. We will know from him what makes him actually, write poems, etc., because he does that. And to my immediate left is Sanjana Rani. She's also a 5th semester student of the same college in the Department of English. So very, very hearty welcome to the three of you. And I'm so glad to be in the midst of you, the energy of today that I'm talking about, that the country is filled with people like you. You are the driving force, the powerhouse of our nation. Thank you so much for taking your time out from your college and for coming to Doordarshan to tell us a little bit about the other activities, the writing zeal that you have. Okay, so I start off right now to you, Charne. Introduce yourself a little bit more. I'm sure you have other passions and what else you want to do in life.
Hi, my name is Charne Jerlin Bepe and my hobbies are watching movies, reading books and listening to music, and in the future I like teaching, so I think I'll want to pursue something in this field.
Wonderful to know that. Nehal, what about you? Electronics and literature, how does it gel?
Hi everyone, first of all, my name is Nehal Gurung. I'm from the St. Edmund's College from the electronics department, and I'm an alumni, which means I'm waiting for my 6th semester results. But even though being from a science department, I still find my inner peace in literature and writing. I feel that I have a lot of things in my life, which science is definitely my interest, but then focusing my other energies on literature gives me inner peace. It makes me feel heard. So that's why, ma'am, I feel like literature is something I also want to pursue.
I like that, inner peace and makes you heard. You are heard. All right, let's come to Sanjana. What about you, Sanjana?
So hello everybody, I am Sanjana Rani from St. Edmund's College and I'm in my 5th semester English department. I was a science student before in my 11th, 12th, but then I decided to choose English as my honors when I started college. This journey was very difficult because initially there are so many questions put to me. Why would you change your stream?
Yeah.
Coming from science and then shifting to English, so many people thought it was a stupid decision, but I think I'm happy where I am, and like Nehal said, we find our inner peace in literature, so I'm very happy to be here. And I love reading, I love writing, and I'm also very much interested in quizzing, so that is pretty much
And
about
you
me.
said that long back in the year 2018, you're in this very studio of ours, actually,
Yes,
when you were
ma'am.
in just in Standard 9 and you participated in a quiz program.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
quickly time flies.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. So now let me understand. Charni, you are into writing, right? You write
Yes.
poems?
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of poems do you write?
Usually I write about my feelings,
Mhm.
and since I watch a lot of movies, I write about the movies that I watch.
Okay. Oh, you write about the movies that you've watched. That's
Like
interesting.
some of the scenes which I really like, which have really impacted me.
Okay, so that you will say that's your inspiration, movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, to some
movies.
extent.
Yes.
Okay, let's come to Nehal. What about you, Nehal? As I asked you also,
Yes.
electronics, your inner peace. What is making you so, not so peaceful?
It's not that electronics is not making me peaceful. I
Okay.
like that stream, but I also like going to two different streams. I
Uh-huh.
think that is fine.
Mhm.
And I like literature because, like I said, it brings me inner peace. And I usually write about things which, like my personal emotions or the things that happens in a day to me.
Okay.
But I have a peculiar way of writing, if I may say peculiar,
Mhm.
because I like to write about myself, but I like to put another person in it, not
Okay.
myself. So
Ah.
maybe I'll take that person back, maybe if it was a prehistoric time, and I'll see what is that situation happening if I was living back then.
Wow.
So I think that is something I really like, but then mainly I focus on my own personal emotions,
Mhm.
because I feel like focusing my emotions on writing makes me feel more happy, makes me feel more heard, and my emotions can always forever be intact in that piece of paper or in that writing. And whenever I go back, I can reminiscence and I can read it, I can feel these emotions again, and I'll feel, okay, that there was one part in my life where I was like this, and it
Yeah, I really liked
Happiness.
it because I'm from the history background and you're talking about prehistoric times. What were the times like?
maybe
Happier times, quieter times?
The fewer poems which I've written are about back then when there was a lot of people used to talk about magic. Science was not very much developed, so
Okay.
people would not have pens. They would write with quills, and they were like people for saying anything, for saying something outlaw. You would be caged in a room.
Wow.
So that's something I'm really inspired about. I like those period of time. I wish I could go back and live there and write poems.
Time machine. Put
Yes,
yourself
ma'am.
into a time machine, maybe.
So maybe I can't make a time machine, but I can
Mm.
write something which was maybe written back then from my perspective.
Oh, wonderful. I mean, it's really, really different. And
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
what I said, because youth are thinking differently, right? What about you, Sanjana? You're also as imaginative as Nehan?
Yes, ma'am. I very much like his idea when he said about the time machine. Basically, I think writing is the time machine in this era, because when you read or write, you go back to the times. For example, if I read a novel which is written in the 1800s, I could relive that moment. I could
Right.
imagine myself as that character from the book or something of that sort. And yeah, it is very intriguing to just go back in the times.
And what kind of poems do you write?
I love nature a lot. Maybe I'm not very much of a romantic poet, but I love nature so much. And whenever I look at the sky, I feel like there's so many things that could be written about the sky. So
Okay.
my poems are based on my perspective as well as what I see in nature sometimes. So mostly about that.
But I
one.
thought nature always brings the romance out of us, right?
Ah,
I
yes,
mean,
ma'am.
we feel a little differently. Like when I look at the moon, I will feel a little different. I'll feel romantic.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you say that it is not romantic as such, what do you feel when you see nature then?
When I see nature, I don't think that feeling can be expressed in words, but I'll try to do justice to it. Because when I see in nature, I feel redemption. That is what I feel when I look at nature. So where I stay, there's a lake. Sometimes I go to that place. Not sometimes, maybe most of the times. I'm
Okay.
sitting there looking at the lake, and there's some sort of revelation which I feel, a kind of redemption that I've won something in my life, or something of that sort. Even when I'm at my lowest. So that is what I feel about nature.
I mean, all three of you, I think you all are trying to find yourselves through your works also, through your poems also, like, because often it is said that the youths of today, they are struggling in the sense they are trying to find where they want to be and what they should do in life. Does that sometimes also find a reflection? What about you, Charni? Does it find a reflection in your poet that, and then thereby when you write, do you find some kind of a relief and, you have let gone certain emotions, and emotions can be both positive and negative also?
Yes, I mostly write to relieve my feelings. Like there are times when I'm really angry or really frustrated about some things, and when I write, I feel like there's some sort of therapy in writing. And also since there's like therapy in writing, I feel like half of my problems are solved by writing.
And you are sorting it yourself only.
Yes.
You really don't have to go to a
Yes.
specialist to sort out, right?
Yes.
So when I come, because you all are all the youth, the young generation of the present time, what bothers the youth? You know, Nehal, if you can, all of you can enlighten us, because you all are the voices of so many others also out there. So what actually makes the youth so agitated sometimes and aggressive also? What is bothering them?
Maybe personally for me, I feel like comparison sometimes, because it's a competitive world, and then we all are different, but we need to be competitive, agreed. But then sometimes there are also differences. We're all individuals, we're separate humans, we have separate emotions, and fields of interest are separate. Sometimes maybe comparing us, it could be any person and any person in the world, comparing us maybe to a certain extent brings our moral down.
Okay.
Maybe
It
that.
hurts you
Yes,
from,
exactly, ma'am.
Yeah, and comparison, and who is doing that? I mean, who is actually, is it from the family more sometimes the pressure, Sanjana? Do this, I would want you to do this, or the choices are not given to you as you would want to have them?
Ma'am, if I talk about myself, I think my parents have been very supporting towards me, because as I said, I shifted from science to arts. So them agreeing to this in itself was a big support, and then I did not need to think about anybody else. But in so many cases, we see it as the family members. Like for example, we can talk about NEET or JEE. So many of us are pressured that if you've taken up science, you either go for JEE or you go for NEET. I have been through that process where somewhere or the other, everybody was expecting me to clear an entrance examination. And I think, yes, it is the society, it is our parents sometimes, and we really need understanding that we do not need to be compared. Maybe there is something which we can do by being ourselves instead of following a path, basically being in the rat race. So that is
the
what I
rat
believe.
race, yeah, because we are all in a hurry.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
we are all slaughtered also. Charni, would you say that we are all often expected to behave and to do certain things? That expectation also is sometimes quite dampening to you all probably?
Yes, because I am the eldest daughter in my family, so I feel like eldest daughters are supposed to set the bar high for their siblings or for their cousins. So not just their family, but even from like society members. They're supposed to be the ideal, the perfect one. They're supposed to do everything right. So not just that, but also social media really sets the expectations high. Many people like to show off on social media, and since everyone uses social media these days, people really get influenced by the lifestyle of these rich people, rich influencers, and they want to live the life of this rich people and rich influencers too. So I think social media and society really sets the expectations high.
So what can be done, because half the time you all are with your mobile and you all are in your social media in any case. So who's to be blamed for that, Nehal? I mean, how does one cope with it? Really, that's a pressure, of course.
So that is when my literary interest comes in.
Okay.
Anytime I feel self-doubt, because I myself have a lot of self-doubt, because I feel like if others can compare you, so can you. Even I compare myself sometimes to others, and I feel like I am also the culprit in that case, if I say. So every time that happens, I have these emotions, roller coasters of emotions. So rather than expressing it on someone else, rather than expressing it in form of actions, I'd rather pen it down. So that I feel more comforted, because who can comfort me better than myself? So I like writing by myself, locked up in a room. I'll write it out, I'll write all my emotions, and maybe after some time I'll feel much more relieved.
But then Sanjana, having the fact that half of our youth, I mean most of our youth, I see they're sitting together, but yet they're all with their mobiles in their own individual. You all are sitting together, no doubt, but then you all are all holding a mobile and you all are all actually concentrating in something that you all are doing there.
Yes, ma'am, I very much agree to this because I believe we all have been in that situation
Yeah.
where we are with our friends,
Yeah.
but we are all scrolling reels on
all
Instagram.
isolated, yes.
Yes, ma'am. So I think the youth these days needs to have conversations as well because we lack so much in expressing ourselves. We are taken aback. We feel that if we express our thoughts, we'll be judged. So that is one big barrier, the feeling of being judged, that if I say this, I will definitely be judged. People will not want to be friends with me or something of that sort, which takes us aback from sharing our thoughts. And when we do not share our thoughts, we find escape in our mobile phones. So I believe if we could just have a world or a society where we could feel free to have conversations.
But then my question to all of y'all is that why are y'all so intimidated what others have to think about you? Why can't you just follow your own chosen path and not be bothered by things? Is it possible not to be bothered by others? I mean, for me it is easier to say, maybe because I've come to that age now where I've almost become, immune to certain situations and people. It doesn't bother me anymore. What about you, Charne? I mean, do you think that we should actually, rise above all this and little bit and then find our own path too?
Yes, we should, but I think somehow we all get caught up in this circle of it. There's our parents, society, and social media. So even if we want to do something different, there's always someone who says like, oh no, this is not the right path. You should do something different. That path will gain you more money. This will make you poor or something. So I think all those it affects us, and sometimes it makes us change our path or change our minds.
Okay.
And I think it also leads to depression.
Of course. That is very, very well said, because mental health is an issue. People don't talk about it, but some of you all maybe silently suffer, and we don't understand. The older ones don't understand it. But good that you brought it out. But then coming back to your writing again, when do you write, and at what point of time when you go back home after because academics also has a lot of pressure. So when is your time really to write and to be yourself?
I'm actually a night owl. So
a night owl, okay.
I always write after 12. When I'm unable to sleep, I take out my phone, I open the notes app, or I open my diary and I write at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Okay, all right. So what about the two of you? When do you all actually have the time to write, and what really comes to your mind that you start writing? What triggers?
Personally, for me, I don't write a whole poem or any kind of literature work together. It comes jot down an idea.
Piece by piece.
Piece by piece. So sometimes whenever I have an idea or I'm feeling certain kind of emotions, maybe I'll not have the entire scripture or entire poem ready. But then if maybe I'm in a class and then out of nowhere, then I get an idea. So I wait for the class is over and then I get a 5 minutes break. Then in the modern era of technology, I take out my phone, and my notes is my favorite app, and I just type it out there. And then later, after so many days, when I feel all of these, I have all of these notes together, I go home and then read all of them, and then I place them in a paper, piece by piece, trying to form an entire poem or any kind of art.
That's a good way, because our thoughts are they flicker in and off, right? I mean, we can get diverted to something else. What about you, Sanjana?
Ma'am, I've had this habit of journaling. I remember I read The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank when I was in my 7th or 8th standard, and from then onwards I started journaling. So it has been there with me, and when I feel that the day was very hectic, or when it was such a lively day that it should be remembered, so I just go home, I open my diary and I write it down. So I do not really see a particular time to write. Whenever I feel like it, I still have my diary in my bag right now. So if I feel like it, I would take
maybe
out
today
and
also
write.
You saw something which triggered a little bit, and maybe
yes, ma'am. When I entered this studio, all the memories, the flashbacks came right here, and I still remember I was team A, I was standing right here and answering the questions and pressing the buzzers for the buzzers round. It was an amazing experience, and there's some kind of nostalgia that I'm not living in that moment anymore, and here I am.
Okay, so maybe you can pen it down later,
yes,
and it will become a beautiful poem. Now, since we're talking about poem, why not just read out what you have? Because I know all your poems are actually in your mobile phone, that's why each of you have the mobile phone. Yeah, it's absolutely fine because we are in the technological age. Can we hear from you, Charni? What is it that you have written and what you want to share with all of us, all of our viewers? Yeah, go ahead.
So this poem is called The Ancestry, and shall I read it?
Yeah, of course.
A rock was carved by my ancestors and was made somehow beautiful by my father. It is incomplete, waiting for the sun to beautify it, but it is on the daughters on whom this responsibility falls. It is waiting for them to grow older and finish the carving, for the line ends with them. But they can make a choice whether to finish the carving and make it more beautiful, or find a new rock of their own liking and carve their own designs and leave it unfinished.
Okay, so what does it actually speak of? Yeah, you can explain to us a little bit more.
I actually wrote this poem in 2021, and it's actually a really personal poem. So my parents haven't really said it out loud, but I feel like somehow they always wanted a son. Okay, but they always wanted a son for a firstborn, and they have certain expectations from that son, but instead of a son they have me.
A daughter. Okay.
Yeah, a daughter.
A beautiful daughter.
Yeah. Thank you. They have certain expectations from me. Like when I was in 10th standard, my parents really wanted me to take science, but I was really interested in literature, and I've made up my mind that I'll take literature, English literature as my major in college. But after I passed my 10, my parents really wanted me to take science, but I somehow, after lots of discussion, I somehow persuaded them to let me take arts. And like I mentioned here about like finding a new rock and making it more beautiful. What I meant to say is like finding a part of my own, finding something, my own hobbies, and like do something in that path apart from, instead of going to the path that my parents have chosen for me.
I understand that, because often some parents try to live their own dreams through their children. This is not right. I think I need to stress on this. This is definitely not right. Children need to be given their space, and I'm sure you all are old enough and empowered enough to choose your right. But then, having said that, you can't really blame the parents too, because they come from another generation. Yes. They have certain expectations, so we have to find a mid path, right? Yes. Mid path. Nehal, what do you have for us?
So the poem I'm gonna read out to you all is, the title of the poem is The Tortured Poets Department, and the poem talks about a period in my life. It was written this year in 2024, before I graduated, my last few months in college. Thankfully, gratefully actually, I was a part of a literary club known as Citizens, and I was also the president serving back then. Okay. So, and that club really focuses on writing poems and sharing with each other. It is like a home for all the poets, for all, not just poems, any kind of literary art. So I wanted to, like I said, ma'am, I transfer myself into a prehistoric time. Right. So I'm basically transferring myself, that emotions what I was feeling, that it was a home for so many people, and I'm so grateful that I also get to serve them as a president. So, this poem is basically about a wizard who is locked up in his chamber, and he just has his quill, and he's writing something, and he's also opened a department for everyone who's interested. So the poem goes as: in a room of shadows where quills softly weep, we gather in our chambers with secrets to keep. By the flicker of candlelight, the ink flows dark, scribbling tales of lost loves, leaving haunting remarks. Wine in old goblets, a ruby red stream, flows through their veins, a forgotten dream. Illicit affairs etched in whispers and sighs, the poets find solace where the soul never lies. With trembling hands they dip quills in pain, writing their verses in a glossary refrain. Between the cracks of a world grown cold, they find their escape in the tales they unfold. Their minds a labyrinth of hidden despair, a sanctuary found only in the words they ensay. The world slips away as they lose their breath in the ink-stained pages that dances with their death. The poets gather, a mournful brigade, tortured by witches and the shadows they made. The solace lies not in the world outside, but in the verses they made up at midnight. So they write on in rooms where time stands still. Their quills are lifeline, their penmanship skilled. For in the dim light of that haunting apartment, the poets finds peace in the tortured poets department.
Wonderful. Really, really good. The words that you've used, the symmetry, and you know how it is rhyming to the other. Wonderful. Let's hear something from you, Sanjana.
So ma'am, I'll read out a very old poem which I wrote during the COVID times.
Okay.
So it's called Unknown, and it goes like this. What have you been through? Nothing, or it's just untold. Suddenly you get up in the morning, realizing your flaws, a full stop to your feelings, you're set for a new beginning. Conclusions are contradicting but don't end up revolting. What have you done? Nothing? Or it's just unseen. The day passes, you're lost, thinking if you're the host to the million of queries being raised out of nowhere. A final reveal to all the stormy winds within the ocean of the salty truth, yet it will forever remain untold and unseen.
Wonderful, wonderful. You all are so creative, so sensitive, I feel. There's a lot of sensitivities in your thoughts, in your words, and the way you all are expressing. I'm sure that you all have a long way to go. You all have just started, you know. You all are so young yourselves. But then as we are almost winding up this program, how important is reading habit, Charni?
Reading habit is really, really important in this day and age, because most of the time we are focused on our phones, like Sanjana have said. Like even when we are with our friends, we don't really have a conversation. Instead, we are just scrolling. So I feel like we should read more, and like the people of this century, they're reading less and less. Like there have been like trends on social media where it's called book talk, where people talk about books. So there have been trends on social media which I think if people watch them, they are like getting encouraged by it to read. But the problem with it is that people are only reading popular literature, or people are only reading popular romances. But I feel like people should come out of this circle of reading romances and popular literature, and they should also read about history, about the classics or some biography and all. They should expand their knowledge, because
horizon.
reading enhances our knowledge, it enhances our literary skills, and this is really common, but it also enhances our vocabulary.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more on this. Quick word between the two of you. I give you 30 seconds. What is the kind of thoughts you would like to share to all the youth? You being the president of your literary club, really, how important is penning down their thoughts?
I personally think that's very important, because like I said, it makes you feel heard. Sometimes it does not matter if it makes sense to others, it should make sense to you. If it makes sense to you and if you feel heard about it, then you should definitely try it.
Absolutely. And Sanjana, any kind of a message for all of the young viewers who are watching this program?
Since I read a lot, and if somebody wants to get started with reading, I think there's this book. It's not exactly a book, but it's an illustration which has dialogues in it, and it's by Charlie Mackenzie, and it's called The Boy, the Heron, the Fox and the Horse. It's really good, and I'm pretty sure most of them must have heard this quote, "What do you want to be when you grow up? Kind," said the boy. So this comes from that book. We are liking reels of it on Instagram, but we do not know where it comes from. So if they want to get started into it, I think this would be a very good start for them.
Very good, very good. That's very nice. And coming from you people that you all have, kind of expressed yourself, I'm sure it has touched, number of our viewers who are watching this program today, especially the young people like you. I wish each one of you all the very best. Charni, all the very best. Continue to watch movies and continue to write, okay? And yes, Nehal, continue to transport yourself, because the horizon is wide and the universe is certainly far ahead, and you can, I'm sure, pen many beautiful thoughts in the years ahead of you, and Sanjana as well. My best wishes to each one of you. Thank you so much for coming to the studios of Doordarshan and sharing your thoughts with all of us. I wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Well then, my dear viewers, that is our three budding authors, our three budding poets. I'm sure that they have a long way to go in life. It's just a beginning for them. But what they said is very important. To find inner peace, sometimes too you have to go within yourself and to find out that problem. You cannot really look for solutions outside yourself. Maybe sometimes the solution actually lies within ourselves. On that note, I hope you've enjoyed this program with us, and until next time, from the three of us here and along with me, it's goodbye.